Missing something here. So the result, it's kind of cool resolution, they put the dissolving ceiling tile on.
We're ready?
They make a ceiling tile,
Hi, I'm calling to order the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals meeting for the City of North Ridgeville. Will you please call roll?
Kane is excused. Grotman.
Present.
Kimball.
Here.
Thibodeau.
Here.
Masterson.
Here.
Members of the administration. Council Liaison Winkle.
Here.
Chief Building Official Fursden.
Here.
Assistant Law Director Morgan.
Here.
Planning and Development Director Lieber.
Here.
Okay, we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Okay. We need an approval of the minutes. I'll make a motion to accept as submitted.
Second.
Grotman.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now we need to move on to the election of officers. We'll take a I'm opening the floor for nominations of the position of chairperson.
I make a motion to nominate Linda Masterson.
Are there any further nominations? No further nominations are received for this position. Can we please take a roll call?
Madam Chair, get a second, please.
Oh, I need a second.
He did.
He did do a second.
Quietly.
Missed that.
Grotman.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm opening the floor for nominations of the position of vice chairperson. I nominate Neil Thibodeau.
Second.
Are there any further nominations for this position? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Grotman.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm opening the floor for nominations for the position of secretary. I nominate Tina.
A second.
Will you please call roll?
Grotman.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm opening the floor for nominations for the position of Board of Flood and Drainage Control Liaison.
Madam, I'd like to nominate James Kane.
I will second that. Is there any other further nominations? Hearing none, please take roll.
Grotman.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I am opening the floor for the nominations for the position of alternate to the Board of Flood and Drainage Control Liaison. I nominate myself.
Second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Grotman.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Masterson.
Thank you. Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Okay. Planning Commission report.
Madam Chairman, we've had 2 meetings on the Planning Commission since this board met. We had one in December 12th, 2 new business, orders of business. The Animal Clinic in Center Ridge Road. Proposal consists of constructing a 1,325 square foot single-story addition to the clinic. This measure was passed. And the second issue was on Pleasant Avenue. Proposal consists of a street vacation for a portion of Pleasant Avenue to allow for expanded parking, and this measure was also passed. The January meeting, which was held in January, I can't think of the date right now, The only thing, January 9th, the only thing of importance was the election of officers, and nothing has really changed
Okay, well,
in the report.
thank you very much, and I'm glad you're still on our board. Okay, are there any other reports?
Madam Chair, I have a report of a final steering committee meeting. Will be Wednesday, February 21st, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the current police station training room. They'll review the input from the last round engagement and a first look at the final master plan.
Well, thank you very much. Is there any other correspondence? Kim, did you want to add anything to the master plan update?
I guess just for the master plan, we did have a last round of engagement and had over 100 people participate. I think we had over many hundreds of comments, so we're sifting through that, so that was good to hear. But in terms of the training follow-up, I know our assistant law director had a memo, and maybe she can review that with the board.
Oh, sure.
Sure, I think it's part of your packet, and the last time we had the training session, which I thought went very well, I enjoyed that. There were a couple things that came up that I thought I would address afterwards. So the first thing had to do with when you want to postpone something, what's the correct language? And there is appropriate language, but the bottom line seems to be, as long as you use a word like postpone, delay, table, that's not going to make a lot of a difference as long as you indicate when you want them to come back. And it can be at a date certain, or it can be after an event. You might tell them to come back after they've had a chance to review their plans or make new plans, new drawings, or that sort of thing. So on that one, it's pretty liberal. As long as your intention is clear from the context around it, then the exact word that you use is not going to make that much difference. Another item that came up is reading correspondence into the record. And that can, I put a couple examples in the memo I gave out to you. That can be a result, one of them resulted in litigation because something was read into the record that probably wasn't appropriate and it wasn't something that was on their agenda. And in another instance, it did lead to the board being overturned, but it had to do with something that was on the agenda regarding a disability. And so when it was appealed, the board's decision was appealed and went up to the court relied on that piece of correspondence to say that that was a reasonable accommodation under the ADA and reversed the board's decision. So what I did was just put together just some guidelines for that as far as correspondence. Make sure that if you are going to read correspondence into the record, that it relates to something that is on the agenda. And then skipping to the bottom, make sure that all the board members have access to it and that's not a surprise to anybody, so they know it's coming, they've had a chance to look at it as well. Those things become a public record, so make sure that you wouldn't want to read something to the record if we don't know who wrote it. So we need contact information, some assurance that it's someone real, that we have their name, their contact information. And finally, make sure that the information that you get that's going to be read into the record is appropriate in the same sense that you would make sure that someone who's present, what they're saying is appropriate. If they say things that are derogatory or mean-spirited or inappropriate, it's perfectly reasonable for the board to say, we're not going to listen to that. You have to have a certain amount of decorum when you address this body. So the same thing with written correspondence. Sometimes people are sort of braver when they are writing something down and they're not actually present. So you could do the same thing with a written correspondence. Just because it should have contact information, contact them and say, we would love to address this, but you're going to have to write something that's appropriate for the board. So those would be my suggestions if you want to develop a rule for the board to use for when correspondence is appropriate. If somebody gave something to this board like 5 minutes before the meeting started, that's probably not appropriate to get it on the record. So if you have a rule, then it's easy to make those decisions for you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to the public hearings.
Applicant PPZ 2024-0241, David James, 37326 Sugar Ridge Road, PPN 07-00-035-101-037. Proposal consists of an outbuilding. Property is zoned R1 Residence District. Requests a 3.4% variance for excessive lot coverage. Applicant proposes a new outbuilding resulting in total lot coverage of 13.4%. Code allows a maximum of 10% lot coverage for lots greater than 1/2 acre. Section 1294.03E4.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this matter? I'm gonna have you come to the podium so I can swear you in.
Okay.
Okay. Could you please tell us your name and your address?
David James, 37326 Sugar Ridge Road, North
Okay.
Ridgeville.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to make before the Zoning and Building Board of Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of the law of perjury?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to explain your application?
I'm wanting to put a building, the size is 20 by 40 in the back right corner of our property. I have a couple pieces of equipment and trucks I want to keep out of the weather. I want to keep a couple pieces of equipment and trucks out of the yard. I want to keep the yard looking nice, looking the property looking neat. Oh, there it is. Pretty much that's all the reason I'm here.
Okay, so you're gonna be keeping the existing shed as well?
Yes. That one we use now for more of the patio furniture, porch furniture. I have a workout set in there, and like the yard equipment, lawnmower and things of that nature.
Have you tried any other way to correct this situation?
Well, luckily for us, the property next to us, it's an open field, and when in the nice weather, they allow me to park my things over in the field. But as it gets colder and wetter outside, I don't want to trash that field driving in and out of there or get stuck and just make a giant mud hole all over that and on the street. And my business gets a little slow this time of year anyways, so I'd like to keep it out of the elements.
So the equipment that you have is for your business?
Mhm.
And you've looked into other places to store the equipment?
I haven't recently. I used to keep them out at an outdoor rental property. That's when I lived in Parma. We just moved here a couple years ago. But I'd like to keep everything, on our property and undercover.
Do any of the board members have any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a comment if I could, Madam
Sure.
Chair. Just looking at your layout and where you have your proposed barn, and when I drove by, it looked like you already poured the pad.
I
Is
did.
that correct? So it's pretty easy to tell where you're planning on putting this. It seems to make logical sense to me where he has this placed on the lot, as you'd go straight down the driveway. I'm guessing you'll probably extend that driveway to the new barn.
Yes, I just ran out of time
Yeah.
because of the weather.
Sure. But I can see how it's pretty much lined up, so it does seem to make sense to me, and the fact that he'd be able to put his truck, trailer, and skid loader inside, I think visually looks better, and it's definitely better for your equipment. So the plan seems to make sense to me. It is a very, one of the lasting, more rural areas of our community, and I think it would fit in just fine, and no one would even know that there was anything different about it.
Any other comments, concerns from the board? Anybody from the administration? Mr. Kim?
Madam Chair, so do you run your business out of the house, or?
I do. Yeah, to be honest with you, I do. It's a side business, if that matters. I have a full-time job also.
The city does have requirements for home occupation and a requirement to obtain a permit, certificate or permit from the building official for any home occupation. There are also requirements that go along with running a business out of your home, certain requirements that have to be met. One of, I think the requirements is maintaining the residential character of the area. So something for the board to, keep in mind. And I guess I would just, draw the board's attention to the Duncan factors that we reviewed and to look through those. I did update our report template as we discussed. And so, the focus is always what is unique about the property, not about the applicant or not about the other conditions, but what is unique about the property. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Building official first, and does this gentleman have a home occupation permit for this business?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you have?
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know I had to have that. I'd definitely look into it now.
What type of equipment do you have?
So for the building, I have a 5-ton dump truck that I would like to keep in there, and I have a skid loader that I would like to keep in there. If I could fit one of my pickup trucks in there, I'd like to do that too, but if not, I've got the, you can see where the part in the back there, I could keep them out there in, but the machine and the dump truck are my number 1 and 2 priority.
And the machine's a skid loader?
Yes.
I have another question for Chief Building Official Ferguson. Sugar Ridge Road, is that a residential road? Sugar Ridge. It's residential, correct? It's not a state route?
It's not a truck route that I'm aware of, but that's a question for the police. I don't regulate truck routes, the police do.
Are there any rules about having a dump truck in a residential area? I guess maybe I'm not asking the question correctly.
Having the skid steer in the dump truck would require in a residential district to put it in an enclosure, which is what he's trying to do.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kim.
Madam Chair, again, I would come back to what's unique about the property. So, just as you think about the application to run a business out of a home in a residential district, then to necessitate the construction of a structure that doesn't meet code is a bit of a self-created hardship. Although you might find that there's unique features of Sugar Ridge that might not exist in other areas of town, but I just imagine in other similarly situated lots, if someone were running a business out of their home, would that be the rationale for obtaining a variance for lot coverage or for those types of requests? So I'd encourage the board to talk about that.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Well, I could look into, or I'll go along with the permit for running a business. I mean, like I said, I didn't know that. I considered this a side business for mine. Yeah, we get busy, which is a good thing. But I understand having to get a permit, and I could follow through with that. No, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Winkle, did you have anything to add?
Madam Chair, the only thing I can add is my own experience. I also have a permit for my residents to operate a business out of. One of the reasons I first came to this board many, many years ago and saw some of you folks, and I was at your podium there. And just, it was unknown to me that I needed to do that, so I made sure it was taken care of, which I think, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, other members of administration, I think it gave you one parking spot, but it was a restriction on the parking spot to be able to use it, and you'd have to probably look at that application and see what it could be. Other than that, I did have a question here, on the Duncan rule, summary, it said there's a 34% difference increase, but on the summaries, on the recommendations, it says 3.4%. So I guess,
10 to 13.4.
yeah, but on the Duncan factors, it referred to a 34% increase. I just wanted to see if that could be clarified.
Can somebody, that's a question I have as well.
That's the percentage over the allowable, 34%.
Madam Chair, can I comment on that?
1/3 more, yeah.
'Cause
Sure.
I was concerned about that myself, and I kind of questioned about it, but just from the mathematical standpoint, the 30% is over the 10%.
Right.
So that's where you get to. So if he went to 20%, that would be 100% asked, correct? So it is only 3.4% over what is allowed, but playing with numbers, that does get you to a 34% increase. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And also, I think one thing to consider as well is, as we all know, the variances go with the property, not with the owner. So if this gentleman was here requesting the same application for a place to store his classic cars, a lot of our discussion of what we're basing and what Kim has mentioned a couple times now wouldn't even be part of it. So I think it's more of a matter of if the building fits on the property and if it's unique to that situation.
I think that you have a very good point, and that's actually where I was going with my thoughts, because behind that is commercial. So while
Big commercial.
I mean, so, and isn't there a trucking company further down the road to the west?
There's a brand new trucking company, on Taylor Parkway, right there at Bender Road.
But isn't there one off of Sugar Ridge? God, I can't. What was the old building secretary's last name? I thought that was her family. They had semi trucks on that.
Say that again.
Not Penny. Sharon, didn't her brother-in-law have a trucking company down that way?
Yes, Cook and Ryan, I don't think that.
I'm sorry, I'm not really good at saying that last name. I was gonna butcher it.
You're referring to now, he had that down there for years, but he had it back in the I zone.
Oh, he did have that back in the I zone. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
That was off Sugar Ridge Road.
Okay,
His driveway was out on Sugar Ridge Road, but he was back in an I zone.
so it is a very unique section of town. Thank you very much, Kim, for doing the Duncan factors. I did have some concern as well as what Chairman Winkle had to say. So the 34% in allowable coverage. So as far as the Duncan factors, I think that, in my opinion, what Sean said in regards to we should be looking at the property as a property owner and as residential. In regards to running a business, that's something that needs to be addressed by the building department. The variance does seem to be substantial, 34% increase in available lot coverage. So this area of town wouldn't, anytime that they're coming for that second, they wouldn't be allowed to build 2 garages on this lot.
No, ma'am, because that is
That's-
for under a half an acre. This
that's-
is just over.
Okay, so that's, I just wanted to clarify that. Now, will the essential character of the neighborhood be substantially altered? That's a unique piece of property, and the view out the back of those properties is unusual for the city. Will the variance affect delivery of services? No, it won't. How long have you owned the property, sir?
Well, actually, my wife owns it, but we've been there, We moved there October of 21.
Okay, so you've been in town for a little bit. I did ask if you could do this differently. Would the spirit intent behind the zoning requirement be observed and a substantial justice done by the granting the variance? We always do like it when the properties are cleaned up and they don't
I don't
look.
want to say anything about that, but you've driven down Sugar Ridge, I'm sure, plenty of times.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that, but we do like that. Is, Assistant Law Director Morgan, did you want to add anything?
No, I think, the review of the dumping factories that you were going through is, always a good exercise to do and see how many of them. I would just remind you that there's not one thing that you look for, it's sort of a balancing of those factors and whether they weigh in favor of granting or against it is a determination that you can make.
Is there any more comments from the board? Sadly, there is nobody in the lobby, so I'm assuming that nobody wants to speak on this behalf. So the chair will entertain a motion.
Madam, I make a motion to approve?
Is there a, okay, thank you. Will you please take roll?
Crotman,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Thibodeau,
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, and you can pick up your building permit tomorrow or Monday? Okay,
I'll be tomorrow. You have all the paperwork still, right, sir?
sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you again.
All right. Is there any other matters in front of the board? I adjourn this meeting. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just a quick question about that permit,
Sir. I need to end the meeting and then you can ask a question.
Let me just ask out there.
Yeah. Well, you can stay in here. I adjourn this meeting. He's right there.